Are you a school leader striving for excellence? Do you crave actionable strategies and fresh perspectives to navigate the challenges of education today? Get ready to take charge. This is Control Shift Lead, giving you something to control, something to shift your thinking, and something concrete to help you lead your school. With Jim Wichman of Inspired Edification and Adam Bush of AWB Education. Your journey to empowered leadership starts now.
All right, welcome to January. This is crazy. First show of 2026, Jim. Here we go. We've been doing this now a year. It's nuts. But man,
that is
January.
True. It is crazy. It's January. I mean, I've already been on the road working in West Virginia and Virginia, talking with a lot of people. I got to tell you, I love snow, but I like it from
Yeah.
afar. I don't want it to impede on my days.
Yeah, it's been something already this year. Although it's been on the weekends, we've lucked out. We haven't missed any time. We're not already
Or in
worried
Iowa.
about makeup days or anything. Yeah, I know a few school districts maybe didn't get that lucky, but mine so far. But hey, happy New Year. Good to see you again. And I'm excited about our show today. It's great. You got energy coming back to the hallways with everybody here as kids are coming back from a break, and we're just getting into
Well,
that
what I
end
like
of
about it
semester
is,
for some of us, or getting ready to start, depending on when you could send. It's kind of crazy how that works.
what I like about it is, we talked about our last segment about with Jim Dutrow of making sure our staff leaves with energy.
Yeah,
And I don't know if everybody saw that one, but what I did notice is people started sending me photos and examples of what they're doing
yeah,
from the tree cart and everything, from the dressing. And my favorite though is in all the dress up days. This is a great lesson too, where I don't think we're going to talk about it here, but the 6'7" kind of thing.
yeah, yeah,
I've seen some schools where they're like, "Do you want me to call your mom?" And then I saw when the adults owned it and took it from the kids,
yep, yep.
kids were like, "I'm out.
I was gonna say it
I'm
probably
out."
wasn't cool anymore.
It
No
wasn't
reason to do it.
cool. It was so what was cool is seeing this shift in the energy
Yeah,
from the draining of the adults in there. So I think a lot of that
yeah,
is what we're talking about. And now we're talking about let's rock and roll with the shift coming in here. And we've got one of the gurus, I would say. Not only does he work for the prestigious University of Northern Iowa,
that's right.
but
Go
we've got
Panthers.
that's right, go Panthers. That's where my education started when it comes to my first degree.
You bet.
But
Same
we've
here.
got somebody pretty special here, Adam. Who we got here
Well,
sitting
I'll
with
tell you
us?
what, you're not joking. It's a heavy hitter. I mean, we're gonna kick off this new year with a heavy hitter, and that is Dr. Matt Townsley. Dr. Townsley is an associate professor of educational leadership at UNI, a former district administrator, I believe 2017 Central Office Administrator of the Year. Do I have that year right, Dr. Townsley? That's what I thought. I'm an author of a book, Making Grades Matter. So if you've ever felt like your grading system doesn't quite reflect what your students actually know, we got your guy. We got your guy that you need to talk to right here. So welcome, Matt. Welcome
Hey,
to the
yeah,
show. We appreciate you hopping on.
yeah. Thanks for the kind introduction. Wow, what a privilege it is to be on the first episode of 2026.
Yeah.
Jim, you're flattering me with the UNI sweatshirt there, buddy. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, we were talking before the show. I bet that sweatshirt's about as old as the first, like as long as we've known each other, Jim. Like it's been a while. I don't know how many years it's been that we've known each other, but I
Right.
love the look. It's very
Yeah.
fresh and retro at the same time. Good
That's all
stuff.
right. Looks good on you, Jim.
Well, 1992 was a couple years ago.
Mm.
All right, maybe not, but yeah. Good stuff.
You got me
Good to
beat
see
by
you.
a
Good to
few
see you
years.
both.
Mine would have been 96. Would have been my first UNI sweatshirt. So a
Well,
little bit later. Little bit later.
I believe there hasn't been one episode where I wasn't the oldest on the show, Adam. So
Well, yeah. Yeah. And you're usually pretty good about getting our guests. So maybe you need to start working on that one. Maybe that should be your goal for February.
I can do that. I do that. I'm happy and thankful that Dr. Townsley, or AKA Matt, is able to join us tonight because when you think about how his brain works and how he sees the pictures, and I go back to Making Grades Matter. And Adam, you touched on this a little bit with what is the purpose of grade? What is the purpose of that marking? And then I go think back to, and you don't have to go back very far, where teachers would ask kids to bring in Kleenex boxes for extra credit points.
Oh, yeah.
That's back when Matt had hair.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah,
Yeah.
just those little things that are just like, that isn't what the grade is.
Yeah.
and we lose sight. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, hang in there with us because we got something very special tonight.
Well, before we kick into it, Dr. Townsley, give our listeners a quick, I know I gave a quick introduction, I gave the accolades, but tell us a little bit more about who you truly are. Who are we going to listen to tonight? And why does this topic mean so much to you?
Yeah, I just when I was a high school math teacher, I was always asking questions in the hallway of my colleagues, how many points do you make homework worth? How much do you take off for late work? And as it turns out, I mean, those were natural questions to ask. But as I started really to think more deeply about it, what I realized is they were the wrong questions to ask. Because I was asking all of these questions all about compliance and how do you use grades as carrots and sticks. And to make a long story short, when I went to a math teachers conference one year, State of Iowa Math Teachers Conference, shout out to the Iowa Council of Teachers of Mathematics there, I learned that maybe there's a different way of thinking about grades. And that really, honestly, I mean, I wasn't like, going to quit teaching or anything like that, but it really was a professional game changer for me to go there and to that conference and just to realize that maybe that one breakout session that, every administrator hopes that they send their teacher to and just has a groundbreaking, like thought provoking, gonna come back and light the world on fire. That's what that was for me. And so I went from that teacher that just, taught based upon points, percentages, and tried to hold kids accountable based upon the grade book to really thinking more about grading being communication
Hmm.
and about feedback being for feedback's sake, not just for numbers' sake. And long story short, went into administration. We did some really fantastic things in Solon, Iowa. We didn't do everything right, but I think we did some great stuff. I think that's maybe how Jim and I really did get connected in the little small pool known as Iowa Educational Leadership back in the day.
You
Did
bet.
Mhm.
some great stuff there. And then in 2018, made a transition to here at the University of Northern Iowa, where I teach school leaders, principals, superintendents, doctoral students, all that fun stuff. And if there's one thing I get up in the morning and stay up late for at night, Adam and Jim, it's to talk about people about this thing called grading. I think there's just a few of us in the world that geek out about this. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, maybe more than just a few, but that's what I love about education. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so thanks for the invite to be a part of this important conversation today.
Absolutely.
Probably need to
Absolutely.
tell our viewers that we're actually recording this at 9 p.m. Central Time. So yeah,
And he's still
I
got
get
the
it.
energy. He's not
And
lying.
he's
He's
still
got it.
bring
Fueled on water, boys. Nothing else, just water.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is as good of an intro as we can get, and I just can't wait to see what we're going to get out of you here tonight. So before we get to our control segment, we're going to take a quick commercial break and pay a couple bills, and we're going to be right back as we shift into that control. So hang on, we'll be right back as we learn more from Dr. Matt Townsley.
Welcome back, everyone. I got to tell you that opening segment, Dr. Townsley's definitely bringing the energy, but we're going to jump right into it before we get off on tangents and so forth. We're going to talk about the control of our control shift lead in education, especially in January. It often brings new mandates or new ideas or state testing. I hear a lot of people talking about testing, test, and things that we can't change. But we want to focus on the things that really do matter. So, hey, Matt, when we look at the classroom assessments through the lens of our work, what is the one practical thing teachers or principals can really control with all this?
Hmm.
Yeah, great question, Jim. And you know what? Like state testing, man, it's just like one of those things. We could talk a whole podcast, good, bad, otherwise, not fun. But when I think about things that a principal or a teacher can actually like control within their purview, the first thing that comes to mind is the idea of redos, retakes, and reassessment. Hear me out for just a minute, guys. Every educator watching or listening believes that students learn at different rates and different paces. They just
Yeah.
do, right?
True
Yep.
story.
Yep.
Everybody, like I've asked that question to thousands of educators, and no one has like pulled me by my bow tie afterwards and said, "Well, actually, Townsley, let me tell you about this class of 24, and they all learn at the same pace."
Yeah.
Never, nobody. So if we really believe that kids learn at different rates and different paces, then we owe it to them, whether I'm an individual classroom teacher, just in control of my classroom, or I'm a building administrator and I can do a whole lot of things even without having to ask for permission from district office or the school board. It's to provide more opportunities for kids to redo and retake. And by the way, there's some bad ways to do this, like
Hmm.
unlimited, just, hey, come in and try Form B. We'll change the numbers 5 minutes after you get Form A back. Like,
Sure.
don't do that.
Yeah.
But just start the conversation in your classroom, in your school about, hey, do we believe that kids learn at different rates and different paces? Yes, we do. So what does that mean for us in PE? What does that mean for us in art? What does that mean for us in fifth grade? Right. And I think most teachers I know are willing to talk about that. Now, it's the details of how many times should we allow them to reassess? What do they have to do between Form A and Form B? What do they do if they go down on Form B compared to Form A? Do they redo the whole Form A, or is it just a specific standard or a learning target? What if it's a big essay? Do they have to write a brand new essay? Do they revise the essay? I mean, there's a whole bunch of implementation details we can talk about, but let's start the conversation. And I know Jim's a big fan of this. And let's affirm those teachers in our school that are already thinking positively about this. And let's affirm them. Let's pat them on the back. At a staff meeting, let's highlight that teacher who's like, I've been doing this for the past 5 years and the world hasn't ended. And more kids in my class are motivated and learning at a high level, so that other teacher in the staff meeting is like, I didn't even know that Mrs. Johnson has been doing that for the past 5 years. Let's freaking go. And if you're an individual classroom teacher, give it a try. Throw it out there. Say, hey, how many do you think you could do better if we were to try this again? And I bet there's some students in every single class who are just like, yeah, I'd give it a try. Jim, you've tried this stuff. You've done this stuff. You're drinking the reassessment Kool-Aid. I know it, Witchman.
I am. I am. Well, here's the thing. I put on my phone to get downtown Cedar Falls. I put on my map Berks. I put on there, how do I get to Berks? It gives me 5 different routes to go. All get me back to Berks. It might be 3 hours. It might be 2.5 hours. It might be an hour 45. I can avoid the interstate. I can avoid a lot of things, train tracks or pay tolls or whatever it is. We believe that. We do it every day. But when it comes to student learning, we think it has to be done at a certain time because we can't manage it or whatever the case is. I believe the
Hmm.
number's 36. 36 weeks kids have to learn. So let me ask you this question. When people that you've come across struggle with the concept, is it because of the way it was introduced to them, or because, like maybe the policy is, "Hey, your PLC set up a redo policy," which then throws
Mm-hmm.
everything off because we have kids all over the place. Do the teachers truly know what it looks like when a kid masters, meets, what it obtains the standard? Do they know what the actual work looks like, or are they 100% relying on a point and percentage?
Yeah, you definitely want that first one, I think. I mean, here's the thing though, Jim. Even in a school where the teachers may not yet be teaching and assessing to standards, we can still do this redo and retake thing. It's not going to be as good, all right?
Hmm.
It's
Right.
not going to be as good. And so what
Hmm.
I think you're talking about there is, Jim, is where we want to go though. We're not redoing, retaking, reassessing like a test or an essay. And thanks for helping me out here thinking through that. It's really more about the specific standard, learning target, or skill. That's what the focus of that reassessment or that
Yes.
redo or that retake's all about.
Yeah.
And I think that could also kind of take some of the maybe the frustration or the myths, the misunderstanding behind it. Is it's because it's about the skill. Like, do you believe that kid can show you in time that they have a better understanding of that skill, that standard, that's
Right.
whatever? Heck yeah, they can. Heck yeah.
That's exactly what it, to me, I see it all about. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Well, yeah, no, I was just going to say, but I think the key here, and both of you were talking about this, you're talking about having a plan, right? It's
Mm,
not just a free will at a whim, like, oh, no, no, no. There's a plan to this. It's a PLC conversation, or it's a grade level conversation, or it's a building conversation. Like, there's a plan to do that, because typically the biggest piece of negative feedback I get from staff is that it's I'm a secondary teacher and the end of the semester is Friday, and now I'm going to be up until 3 a.m. Thursday
yeah.
morning correcting all these papers because I had all these kids just dump all this work on me on the last day. And you're right, that part sucks. That's hard
Yeah.
if we set up
Yeah.
that type of a culture where we allow that to happen. But again, the plan is the key there. What are we as a team willing to do to give kids that opportunity to show more evidence?
Yeah, you're right. It can't be a free for all, and there has to be some meaningful cutoff. Now, in the real world, I mean, in the ideal world, it's like Jim, Adam, and Matt like going back and reconciling those, B's we got in US history in high school years and years ago. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, as Jim mentioned, within those 36 weeks or that 9-week quarter or that 18-week semester or trimester or whatever. How can we honor the fact that kids learn at different rates and different paces? And there's got to be some very specific, corrective instructional activities that students go through between their first attempt and their second attempt. I mean, that's just like, Benjamin Bloom's theory of mastery learning back in the day talked about that. And, way back in the day, it's just
Yeah.
applying some of those concepts today as we think about redos and retakes and what that means for us in a classroom setting. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, I passed my driver's license test the first time, all right? Now, maybe somebody out there watching it didn't. If you fail the driver's license test, it's silly just to fail the driver's license test, walk out the back door, walk in the front door, and try again. The
Mhm.
best thing to do is to go home, study, come back, and try it again. We want to create that same type of environment in our classrooms.
I'm pretty sure in the '80s, I had to sit out a day before I could take my permit test again. I think so. So this is not new we're talking
Hey,
about
they were
here.
already
So
on to you
I
right then and there. That's right. Relearning moment right there.
yeah, little did I know that actually opening the manual was very helpful. I don't know,
Well, there's
weird.
that part
So
too.
here's
I
why I
mean,
talk in this control thing. I hear, "Oh, this is wonderful." There's a couple of things I'm grasping on the control just briefly if I get it right. One, think about the purpose of why we're doing it. We want our kids to learn the information. We want them to learn the information. So that's something we can control that
Yep.
part of it. And here's the other thing with control. If this is something of interest, and Adam's going to get into this later on, if this is something of interest, there's 3 people right here where you can reach out and we're going to help. I know, I know that Matt will drop everything if someone has any kind of interest. As you saw the energy, we see the energy tonight. And the same with Adam and I. So no one has to do this alone, and we can do it in a
Yeah.
meaningful, manageable, and tangible way to
Yeah.
do that.
mhm.
That's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Great. I love that.
All right, now we're back, and it is time for the shift portion of our show. This is that part where we challenge the status quo a little bit, Matt. So your entire philosophy on grading, it really does require a massive mind shift for some people. That mindset shift from a points chasing culture to a learning focused culture. So why is this shift so difficult for some of us?
Yeah, great question here, Adam. And as I think about, points chasing to learning focused, I think I want to make sure I attribute it to the right person. I think it's Sue Brookhart in one of her articles kind of reframe this as moving from earning to learning. All about the classroom of the currency being about point accumulation to a classroom what's really more focused on learning. Well, I think first of all, there's just a certain level of comfort that goes along with point accumulation, right? Like that's if you're to ask any parent today, they probably did their homework assignments or brought the extra credit Kleenex box in that Jim was talking about earlier because it's points. Like I used to joke in my classroom, there were probably some families if I said bring in a whole case of paper from Costco or Staples, reams and reams and reams of paper for extra credit, or a whole case of Kleenex boxes, they would have brought 5 of them, right?
Yep.
And there's some
Yep.
families that we know couldn't. And that's just what's so crazy about it, right? And so there's this culture that we're working against that's I'll do anything to get the points, even if they have nothing to do with learning. And I think honestly, if I'm to look at myself, I was a part of that problem, right? I used to emphasize to my students early on, like, oh, you should do this project or you
Yep.
should do this assignment
Yep.
because it's worth a lot of points.
Yep.
Hey, this one's worth 100, or hey, this one's worth 75, or you know what, that one's worth just 5, or talking with a parent at parent teacher conferences. I would tell them, like, well, make sure they do this one coming up because it's worth a lot of points, right? And so I was a part of that points based
Same.
culture
Guilty.
that's,
Guilty.
yeah, like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
prevalent in school. So I fully understand where we're coming from here. But whether we like it or not, there's good things and bad things about No Child Left Behind and Every Student Succeeds Act. But the thing I like about it is it's focused on what do our kids know and not yet know. And
Yeah.
I think as we now have a basis, these standards, right? Jim was talking about that earlier. Now we know what every kid should be learning in Algebra 1 or 7th grade social studies. And so it just makes sense for us to teach those standards or learning targets and assess those learning targets and a grade based upon those. And so it's like we now have this like more fine-grained thing, learning goal, we can now point to and say, this is what we're going to utilize to determine if a student is learning at a high level in this class. And we can point to those very specific skills, standards, learning targets, competencies, whatever the heck you want to call them in your school. They're there. The states say we got to teach them. We might as well assess and grade upon them. Let's go.
I love it. Here's what I love about this too. So people like, I used to run into this when we first started having these conversations. Well, I don't know how to create a formative assessment or whatever the case is. And I'm like, wait a second here. So you have your standard and you have a aspect of it. Maybe it's called a learning target, whatever you want to call it. And so you maybe put it on the board or whatever the case is. Everything we ask our kid to do should be talking about that learning target. And if that's true, we don't have to create anything. We just got to walk around and monitor and see where they're struggling with and what they have right and what part they're learning and what part they don't. And we're measuring against a standard. I mean, it's not quite that easy, but it is. You don't have to create more work. It's like create the right work, and then you don't create more work with that. And then when you have that parent-teacher conference like you were talking about, what yours was, oh my God, you took me to, remember opening up the red book? And then they'd say their kid's name and you would look at the numbers on that red book.
That's right.
Tell me how you don't know my kid by telling me you don't know my kid by looking across at that. But you
Yeah.
talk
Oh, not even in the
standards.
right class. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Well, and
talk,
I think that's part of it, like knowing the kid. That's really what you're talking about there.
yeah,
When we don't have exactly what it is we're trying to teach, and then what it is we're trying to learn, and then what it is we're trying to provide communication back to parents
Mm,
on how they learned. If we don't know that, we don't truly know the child. And it's kind of funny. Today we were having a conversation. It was about something different, but it was in a little team meeting. And we were struggling a little bit with a kiddo that we're trying to come up with what's the best support for a kid moving forward, right? And we have all of these ideas, and it was I'm gonna give her credit for it because I love the line too. It's my ESOL instructional coach, Melissa Grinstead's her name, that works with me, and she said, "You know what? We don't know exactly where this kid is. Heck, this kid might not be proficient at lunch. We don't know. Like, we don't have a grade for this kid everywhere. We don't have an understanding of him. We've got to find that part out before we can truly understand what the next step is." And I mean, the grading piece, a lot of times we just get so focused on
yeah.
academic piece, but it's the whole child. Do we
Mhm.
truly understand how we're all developing that whole child? So that part's really cool to hear.
Yeah, hear me out. Like, I mean, here's the thing, right? We've all been to the doctor's office. We've all taken our loved ones to the doctor's office. I mean, here's the thing. What if we went to the doctor's office and then they say, all right, all done, Jim, all done, Adam, all done, Matt. And they're like, you're at 85.6% health. We'd be like, what are you talking about, right? Like, what are you talking about? Or if you take your vehicle to the mechanic and they're like, oh, your Toyota Corolla's at 83.2%. You'd be like, what in the heck's going on around here? No, like,
and you're late for the appointment, so now it's at
yeah, I
72%.
know,
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
right, that's
I
right, that's
know.
right. Can I just
But
bring in
no,
an
like,
extra oil filter? Would that bring
yeah,
it up to 90? Yep.
but the mechanic gives you a very detailed, inspection, right? Like, hey, here's how well your brakes are. Here's how well your battery is. Like, they give you that detailed level, like that detailed information about your vehicle. That's what, standards-based grading, standards reference grading is all about, is having that same level of detail in our communication, except it's not about brakes and batteries anymore. It's about, citing textual evidence and main idea in English class. That's really this big shift from from earning to all about learning. And it's those learning those standards and that stuff.
I'm
Wonderful.
stealing that. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm stealing that, and I'm gonna use it. It might even be tomorrow. Like,
All
okay,
right.
we're gonna do a 21-point inspection on the grading for this kiddo. That's how we're gonna provide that feedback. That's amazing because that makes sense to me. I get that every time I get in for an oil change, right?
You
That's
Well,
bet.
think
perfect.
about it
Jiffy
like
Lube or
this.
whatever. Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about it like this. We talk about interventions a lot, and it's hard to diagnose. So because when you go to a doctor, they diagnose, prescribe, and they monitor, right? So we go into a student and we know that they're struggling, but we don't know what it is. So we just keep pouring water in their bucket, but we got to figure out where the hole is. Figure out where the bottom hole is, give an intervention there, prescribe, fill that hole. Now we go up to the next hole or whatever the case is. We don't do that because we're looking for that silver bullet, whatever the case is, what they need. Whereas you're talking about, don't bring in any more Kleenex boxes or put your time and energy in the one with the most points, figure out what the child needs. And what both of you are saying the same thing, and that is lean into that spot. I wonder if where our struggles are, if we shift our thinking to finding the hole in the bucket, and then that's what the purpose of an intervention is, to get them to be able to get to the standard and so forth, what it defines and what it looks like and so forth. We can get to that level. And I know there's struggles with it. It's not a quick and easy thing, but if we can at least start shifting that, step out of our comfort zone, like Adam kind of pointed out a little bit, then all of a sudden, wow, we got that 21-point inspection. We can kind of figure it out. And what's going to happen is people are going to want to keep going back to that teacher, because just the same reason why I want to go to Heartland Tire for my car, they give me that information and they know me as Jim Wichman, probably because I bring in a lot of cars there. But
But you can trust that it's honest because they've proven it to you. They're going to give you the straight answer. That's the same
they're going
thing
to
you
give
have
me,
that teacher. Yeah.
they're not
Focused
going to give me a
on learning,
percentage.
focusing on learning, not just
They're
getting
not
it
going to
done.
give me, yep. They're not going to give me the percentage. They're going to tell me specifically what it is.
You got it.
Yep.
Wow, that's a big pivot. I know for a lot of us too, especially, it's not about completion. It's not about an event, that, oh, we have a test. No, it's about the assessment of learning. It's evidence of how we're progressing towards those standards. That is quite a shift. It's a very necessary one.
Great
I
one,
love it.
Matt.
Yeah.
Great one.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, it just feels like equity and clarity for all of our kids, every single kid in that building. I just love it. Well, let's stick around. We've still got our lead segment coming up, and we got even more from Dr. Matt Townsley here on Control Shift Lead. So hang on, everybody. We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
We're back for a final section of Control Shift Lead. And I got to tell you, it's been high energy. And again, we're talking like we're post 9 p.m. on Central. So this is actually
That's right.
amazing in a cold January night. So this is crazy with that. Hey, Matt, this is kind of for our administrators. This section of lead is for our administrators, teacher leaders as we come around, maybe the ones driving the bus or encouraging those on the bus or just being part of it really with that. Or those who really want to take a step early, like you guys said, in your classroom, what can you do? I think you were talking about that very first control segment there. So you've led initiatives or kind of like a shift or evolution of thinking along the way. For a principal sitting in their office or a teacher who's listened to this and they say, I'm in my classroom, I really get this, but what do I do now? What is that leadership move for them?
Yeah, I love it. So here's the fun thing. You asked this question. I was actually on Zoom this morning with 2 different groups. I feel like we're doing this well. The first thing that the leaders in these districts did is they said, I'm not going to be the only one doing this. I'm going to form a team and we're going to do this together. You're talking principal, assistant principal, counselor, teacher leaders, some teachers. Some schools call it their leadership team. Some schools call it their guiding coalition, their grading task force. What do you want to call it? But they're forming a team and saying, we're going to do this together. All right. 2 different districts that I was on Zoom with today, like, we're doing this, all right? And with that team, they're trying to do things in a specific order. It's not exactly linear, Jim, but there are some important first steps, okay? Now, I'm going to zoom out for a second. I get these types of phone calls and emails literally every month. Somebody emails and says, hey, Townsley, I hear you're the grading guy. Can you tell us, what should our report card look like? Or can you tell us, how should we weight our grade book? 90-10, 90 summative, 10 formative, or whatever, And those are all great questions. Those are all important. But what I want to say is that's hopefully not the first question you're asking. Again, I go back to Dr. Sue Brookhart, Dr. Tom Guskin, and others. They're like, you know what? The first question a leader's got to ask themselves is, what purpose do we want our grades to serve or convey? Right? So we just got done talking about that in the previous segment, right? We want to go, it's not about point accumulation. It's not about compliance. We want our grades to communicate learning in relation to the state standards or whatever. And so the practical deliverable of all that is to say, here's the purpose of grading in our school. The best leaders out there, they know the mission and vision of the school, and they're living it out. Words on the wall, if I can use a phrase. I know you know Jim Wichman, all right? Okay?
Well, Jimmy Casas there, yeah.
So we got to have that same mindset when it comes to grading, all right? So here in Iowa, there's a convenience store called Casey's, all right? And so here's the deal. if Adam's wearing his, his school district's logo right here on his quarter zip as he's filling up his Toyota Corolla at the gas station, and somebody else on the other side of the pump is like, "Hey, I heard your school district is doing something different with grading." Adam, like any educator, ought to be able to just tell him on from one side of the pump to the other, like, "Here's what we're doing and why." And
Yeah.
it starts with that grading purpose statement. So that leader has got to be thinking, I got to rally my staff around this collective agreement around what purpose are grades going to serve in our school. That's the very first step. All right. And we're going to do that with a team. And then we're eventually going to roll that out to our entire staff to get them involved, asking questions, all that fun stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of other stuff after that. Like, we've got a grading purpose statement. Now we're going to have like grading policies in our school. Like, how are we going to handle those reassessment things we just talked about?
Yep.
How are we
Yep.
going to handle homework? All that important stuff. But first, what's the purpose of grades in our school? Step number 1.
I'm
So
assuming if we don't have that down pat, you don't move forward. You've got to
You
get
can't.
that down pat.
Yeah, if we don't have that, we're gonna have
Yeah.
all kinds of like misalignment. Like, why are we doing retakes? Why
Yeah.
does our grade book
Yeah.
look like that? Right? You got it.
So here's the thing. It just took me right back to one of my workshops I do is I try to talk about common language, common experiences, right? I mean, okay, you don't know that but that's what I do. So I'll put a picture of pop can on the screen. What do you guys call that? Some call it soda, some call it a pop. I put a remote up there. What do you call that? A remote, a clicker, or a dial? So they all get all these different things. A shopping cart. Do you call it a shopping cart? Do you call it a buggy? They call it buggies in the South. It's really crazy to me.
That one's weird to me too.
So you
Yeah,
go
I
all
don't
that
get
and they're like, what's the big deal about this? So when I'm talking about grading and it's not the same thing as everybody else, it gets confusing. So I will put up there, what about this?
Mm,
Purpose of grades. Does everybody have the same purpose of grades? And it gets really quiet.
mm,
The purpose of a teacher or the role of a teacher, really quiet. When we
mm.
go back to the purpose of assessments, quiet, because they're all looking around thinking, how about a discipline referral? And it still stays quiet. And when you start talking about all this, what you just were saying there is, if we can't get aligned as a system, think
right.
about the frustration we're causing our children
Yep.
and their parents. So this this leadership concept goes right to a shift of your thinking and something you can control. We don't want to have the conversations because it can get a little messy, but it's more about why we're having the conversations is what we're doing. And I think, Matt, you do a great job. We just define it. We don't care. Just define it. Come up with a
Yeah.
common definition with that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's an exercise to go through to unify our understanding of why the heck do we even put stuff in the grade book, right? And that conversation, I think many educators they want to have, and others, while it might be uncomfortable, it needs to happen in the school if we're ever going to move away from this compliance, earning focused schools and
Mhm.
classrooms that I really think deep down many of us don't really want.
I was in
Agree.
a conversation the other day with an administrator too that was talking about, how to continue to move this forward. Cause, we're at a stage in my school where we're kind of hitting some bumps in the road. We're not quite getting the traction we're looking for. And I think this was a great point. He said, at the end of the day, we're never going to be able to actually get this for parents to understand it until their kids can explain it to them. That's where it's
Bingo.
going to start.
Bingo.
Yeah. And we can't get our kids to understand it if we don't understand it, right? If we're using that different language, they're not going to pick up on it. And again, I just know from my own kids coming home, heck, I was the principal of their building, right? Okay. And they're sitting here trying to explain it to my wife, like, I don't know. I can't do that. We weren't good enough at that time for them to be able to carry that weight of this is the why behind it. This is what we're doing. I get it. I get what I need to do. I understand my own learning, all of those pieces that go with it. It starts with us, but it's gonna have to flow through those students. Got to flow through.
So I mentioned at the previous school I was a principal that we did evolve to 100% standards mindset. So everything
Mhm.
was there, standards mindset. What you just said is what happens. The teachers started aligning. It started with our literacy, sixth grade literacy teachers. They still really started getting there. And some of those hiccups they saw, like,
Mm.
the question, how many things do we have to have in the grading book? And
Yep.
all those
Yep.
things that go in there,
Yep.
they started messing with. And then we started talking. And then they started asking the questions, like I said in our break, can we get away from the grades? Because we're trying to tell people that how their parents, how their kid, what their kid has learned and what they need to learn. And then we have to convert that to a grade that really doesn't reflect on their students'
Yep.
learning. And I thought, whoa, that was powerful. And it started growing. But the way they taught they made the language common. And then it happened in other subject areas and content areas. Then we have a movement. Then we have a wave. They can go
Yeah.
home and they talk to the kid. They can tell their parents about, I need to get this in my essay, so to speak, because, or composition, whatever you want to say, because I'm missing this, whatever the case is. And when they can have that conversation, that's why we didn't have phone calls that were
Yeah.
tearing us apart. It was just a couple questions. I just need to answer. And the parents were wonderful, wonderful. But it started with that communication, like you guys said, with the student. Well, the staff had to get it clear first. Then we brought the students along, but we made it authentic in our instruction. It
Yes.
wasn't about grades. Kids would come to us and say, it's sixth and seventh grade. My mom said I have to get a B or an A. I don't know what that means. Kids are, but that's what their lowest level of training as parents are experiencing. So we have to help them. We have to ask the right questions there, not condescending, but just real questions within that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. But it all starts with that definition and coming up with common language. That's for sure.
Bingo.
Well, leadership is about staying the course because sometimes it can be wavering, and you always have those systems where what's the principal read this summer, and that's what we're going to do. I know, right? So one of the things I always guaranteed is we're going to operate as a standards mindset, so we're not changing, and it's going to be that way. And we stayed that course over and over again within that. And we're going to head into our last commercial here with that kind of that thought process in mind. And we're going to come back. We're going to wrap it up, kind of catch up on what's coming up in the next segment. What Dr. Townsley's up next, how we can reach out to him. This is what he does. This is his passion. If you weren't able to pick up on it, I'm not sure what you were watching there.
All right. What a way to start 2026, which even just saying that's kind of scary in itself, but what a great way to start it. I mean, that's more than even just a proficient way to start that. See what I did there, right? We're exceeding
I-
already with you in this room today. So, Dr. Matt Townsley, thank you again for sharing your expertise with us today. And unfortunately, we try to keep this show about to this length, and I think we could spend days and days and days continuing to talk with you, and you would still have a lot there. But Jim, we've covered a lot of ground today. Can you do us a quick favor, recap a little bit on what we can control, what will shift our thinking, and what you can take to lead as those takeaways for our listeners before we close up today?
What I like about this segment is the recap can go in any of the categories because it just fluid. It's so intertwined within that. So I'm going to try to recap within that. So the control part, it's just really remembering that we can control that the time frame that we can't control the time frame that the kids learn, but we can control the fact that we're going to allow them to learn at their pace within reason, within limitations, and within our structure that we have. And we also have to understand that there's not a one size fits all within that. Again, something we can control that practice. For shift, I think that was the cleanest one to really kind of dig into is moving from earning to learning, earning
Learning to
points
learning.
to learning. So we're stop chasing points to really
Mm.
chasing the learning. And the only way we can that can happen is if we get really crystal clear of what we want our children to learn. And it
Mm.
doesn't mean percentages. It doesn't mean points. It's about the actual tangible standard or whatever that your district decides or determines within that.
Yep.
And then finally, within the lead, it's really about the purpose, the intention. So I know that there's a lot of educators sometimes that are getting on the hamster wheel and they're just trying to get through the moment, get through the day, get through the whatever it is, kind of losing our purpose. We can do something about that with our leadership, whether it be a teacher, leader, individual classroom, or a principal, superintendent, of just really defining what is it that we're doing. And in the absence of that, we're like floating all over the place and we're confusing children, we're confusing staff meetings, colleagues, and it gets really frustrating. So back to lead, it's very simple. Grading for purpose. What's your purpose statement along that? Take the time, make the time to do that. And I stress to the listeners out there, we got 3 people here that'll help out. You reach
Mhm.
out, and if we don't know the answer, we're going to step into it. And Adam, I know you're gonna probably get into this a little bit, so sorry about that. But if our listeners want to know more about portion of this segment, we can lean into it. We'll
Mhm.
get the good doctor back
Mhm.
on, and we'll lead right into one of those
Well,
segments.
yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was hinting at there is that, I mean, you're just scratching the surface. Let's be honest, Dr. Townsley. And it's not as easy as we'd like it to be. Unfortunately, it just
Yeah.
isn't. This is hard work. It's very
Yeah.
hard work. I mean, we are talking about We are talking about changing decades of the way things were done and the way most of
Mm.
us grew up in that and started our careers in that. It's tough. It's tough work. So yeah, we're just scratching the surface, and you're exactly right, Jim. There are people out there that can help you, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to just be your job. It doesn't have to be your challenge in my classroom, or just amongst my team. There are people out there that are able to partner with you and to move forward, which is just awesome. That's great. Dr. Townsley, what is next for you? I know you do a lot of this work and continue to teach and develop the next line of teachers and educators out there coming out of the great University of Northern Iowa. But what else you got going on?
Yeah, 2026, great opportunity to continue supporting schools out there. We've got a couple of leadership teams here in Iowa I'm working with to help them go from, hey, we know that grades need to look differently in our school, to start developing like a grading purpose statement and start to figure out how to support teachers in their school to start thinking differently about grading. We've got a big standards-based grading conference coming up here in Iowa in June. So reach out if you're going to be in the area in June. Bring your leadership team. We can help you with some of these ideas we're talking about here today. Also, if you're looking for resources and all that type of stuff, hop on Google, type all things standards based grading. All things standards based grading. I just updated that part of my website over the holiday break, and lots of great resources in there, podcasts, articles, books, all kinds of stuff to click through and access to really continue building your repertoire, if you will, of what all this looks like and what it can look like in your school. And honestly, just like you guys, just answering emails and phone calls of people that are reaching out saying, can you just talk to me for 5 minutes? Can you point me in the right direction? That's what I love about being in education. Like,
Yeah.
it's not some competitive thing. I mean, if you call me up and Jim Wishman's the guy, I'm just gonna like send you to Jim
Yep.
and say, get fired up and have Jim talk with you. He's better at a bunch of stuff than I am. And so like we're just here to support people along the way.
Yeah. No, I think
Flattering.
that's a big thing. We're all good about stealing from each other and sharing with each other anyway. That's just the point. Like you said, it's not a competition. At the end of the day, we all want what's best for all kids. That's
Make
really
it about
cool.
the kids. I really like that, making it about the kids, that's for sure. Hey, Adam, what do
So
you got going on?
say that again, Jim.
What do you got going on the next month here, January into February?
Yeah, so I got a little break from a grad class, which is awesome to get us start that back up towards the end of the month here. Whether I think this is a good idea or not, my health thinks this is a great idea, but I referee high school basketball, so I'm going out 2 nights a week,
Ooh. Ooh.
and having people either agree or not agree with every moment that I have during that day. But I'll tell you what, it's fun. It's a great time. I enjoy. Got a good crew of people that I work with, and get a chance to see kids out there doing something different for once. Trying to do something that they have a passion in, and it's fun to be part of those evenings with everybody out there. And again, forces me to run a little bit, forces me to get out there and exercise. So I enjoy that part of it.
I've always
Yeah.
wanted to ask this to a referee, Adam. When it's
Yeah.
like a tight game at the end, I
Yep.
know that the coach's adrenaline's just pumping and the athlete's adrenaline. What's it look like to be a referee in a tight game at the end? Is your adrenaline pumping? What's it like?
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's exciting. You can feel that part of it. And it's funny because you'll hear people, and I'm guilty of that too, especially when my team's won, like, oh, they should have blown the whistle. They didn't want to blow the whistle at the end of the game. I'm telling you right now, if there are officials out there that can do that, they are a way better official than I will ever be, because I am just concentrating from
Locked
first
in.
whistle to last whistle to try to get the
Locked in.
call right. I can't think about that stuff, to be honest. It's like,
Yeah.
I guess the game's over now. Okay. All
Yeah.
right, now we're ready to move on. We
Fascinating.
just got to make the
Fascinating.
call at the right time. But it
Love it.
is, it's
Love it.
fun, and it's exciting to be part of that moment that people are going to remember. Just had a couple nights ago, I had a kid turn around and right at the end of the quarter, just I mean, it was a Hail Mary heave, and it just right on through the net, and the place erupts, and it was fun. I can guarantee you that kid's going to remember that moment for a long time. It was really neat.
Did you wave it off?
Oh no, he nailed that sucker. I would not have been a very popular person that night.
No.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I wanna be very clear on something. When you said you were taking grad classes, I believe
Mhm.
the word is doc classes.
Yeah, that is true. That is
Yeah,
true.
we're
Yeah.
not we're
Yes.
not talking grad classes. No
Yeah, I've
offense to
got
the
some work
grad
to
classes.
do,
Love
but
it.
yes, that's a goal. I'm gonna get to that goal. We're gonna finish that up
Yeah.
so I can throw a couple letters and at the end of my name. So you bet.
So I gotta
Which what
tell
are
you,
you up
with a
to? Yeah,
shot
what are you doing, Jim? You traveling? What are you
I
up to?
I am gonna be in about 10 different states in January, February, working with people. We talk a lot about standards and that, but we're really talking about common language, common experiences, and so forth. So it's tiring, but it's also that invigorating that you get to work with people who are really trying hard to be their best selves and just helping them. They all have it. They all have the talent. It just is kind of clearing waste from the mud. We know that I do appreciate being that excitement and helping people along the way. That's for true. I also want to give a shout out to Matt for this reason. He's one of my fellow very loyal bow tie wearing
That's right.
gentlemen. I didn't know whether to wear a bow tie tonight or the Northern Iowa retro
We didn't want to show up a
sweatshirt,
guest, so I get
I
that.
didn't want to show up
They
a
are
guest
bow tie
within
brothers. Yeah,
Bow
We're
tie
bow tie
brothers.
brothers,
that's right.
and it's always on there. And I appreciate, Matt, how you always reach out, throw a little note on my social media post about keep at it, good up, Jim. I just really do appreciate that.
Yeah.
I also appreciate that you being on the show, not just tonight, but I know you're going to be on there in the future. That's for true.
Appreciate you guys.
Speaking of future, Adam, we're going to take a little different turn. Another UNI grad is going to be on there, Mr. Bobby Long. Bobby is, we talk about teacher leaders along the way. Bobby's been in education, gosh, I think it's been about 32, 33 years within that. Worked at Muscatine High School, Muscatine Middle School. He sees special education. This guy sees it all and just a ball of laughter within it coming. So I'm looking so forward to seeing what kind of incitements he has about what we can control, something we can shift, and maybe something to lead along the way. And I believe he's also a Dr. Townsley fan too. I mean, there's so many of them.
Well,
Come
that's
on.
just it. Yeah, take a number for that crew. That's awesome.
Take a number is
That's
right.
great. Well, good. So that's February. I'll tell you what, it's going to be a busy month. It's going to fly by. We know it does. This year's flown by already, but hopefully you still got your New Year's resolutions when we get back here to record again for February, and we'll see. We'll see if we're all sitting there or not, but
All
that's
right.
that's great. Well, I'll tell you what, everybody, you can find Matt's work, his book, Making Grades Matter. We're going to put all of that stuff in the show notes. Before we go real quick, though, Dr. Townsley, can you give us a quick, where do we find you on socials? How do our people get in touch with you? If they've got a grading question, you're the first person I would be talking to for sure. So how do they get a hold of Dr. Matt Townsley?
But like I said before, all things standards-based grading, type that in Google. That'll get you one of my websites, or just www.mctownsley.net. Also, MC Townsley on all the major socials, Blue Sky, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, all that fun stuff. Send me a DM, message, whatever you want to do. Love to connect and, reshare your good stuff going on in your school too. I think that's one of the awesome things about social media is, seeing the good stuff that Jim's doing out there, seeing the good stuff that somebody else doing out there and giving them a high five on social media. So mctownsley.net or MC Townsley on the socials.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Thanks again. Really appreciate you being on here tonight. Jim, thanks to you again. Good to see you. Listeners, thanks for joining us on Control Shift League. Go out there and make a difference, everybody. We really appreciate it. Have a great January. We'll see you back here in February.
You've been listening to Control Shift Lead, brought to you by Inspired Edification and AWB Education. We're glad you joined us for today's discussion on empowering school leadership. To dive deeper and explore more of Jim and Adam's work, find us at www.awbeducation.org. Thanks for listening. We look forward to connecting with you again soon.